We'd have to attest once a year at the very least.
There's something in the packet about that.
Ready when you are.
I'm waiting for shit now.
It's probably a good idea, but
Always waiting for something.
Well, I didn't want to be dismissive, but I didn't. I didn't encourage it.
there's some that fire over the plow chute a while back and then returned home. Some of his comments.
Thank you.
Well, in about 3 different texts, it confused me.
So, assume Jim's not coming?
Fair.
We'll just,
He would have been here.
yeah. Okay, give me a moment. Get my act together.
Where's the stopper? I was going to say.
Oops.
Yep.
Yep.
Good. Alright. I'd like to call the select board meeting of Monday, March 4th, 2024 to order. And for anyone watching at home, sorry, our Board of Civil Authority meeting went over time. Item 2, additions or deletions to the agenda. I see one, if anyone cares to make that motion.
I move to add to the end of the new business part of the agenda, consideration of both a second-class liquor license and a tobacco license for AGS Vermont Incorporated, also known as Londonderry Village Market.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, now we'll move on to minutes approval. Meeting of 2/19/2024.
I move to approve the minutes of the select board meeting of February 19, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 4 is select board pay orders.
I move to approve the pay orders for payroll and accounts payable.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 5, announcements and correspondence.
I have a couple. Bear with me 1 moment. Okay, the mold in the town hall basement has been remediated and the floors steam cleaned and prepped for tomorrow's town meeting and the elections. Big thank you goes to the Champion Fire Company for helping the town hall renovation committee to remove the balcony seats that were on the main floor and put them in the backstage. So thank you very much to the fire department. Following tomorrow's town meeting, select board will hold its organizational meeting right now scheduled for the 18th, unless the board wants to do it sooner. And in addition to the annual appointments of the road commissioner, emergency management director, Wyndham Regional Commission representatives, the tree warden, the 911 coordinator, animal control officer, and communication union district representatives, this year the board will be making the appointment of the first constable and if necessary the second constable. So that's as a result of last year's town meeting vote, so it'll be a first. Though the board has made appointments anyway because no one has run for the office. So those are the, anyway, regarding the annual appointments, I'll be sending out an email to all the incumbents and also post notice of the availability of those positions for reappointment. Correspondence in the meeting packet is a thank you letter from My Community Nurse Project to the community for the annual contribution, and then lastly, just the January 24 monthly report from the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office.
Would you like to add that lab result email you sent out for the town hall basement? What's that, the mold?
Yeah, mold is remediated. It's less than the outside, in fact. So yeah, we originally did have some mold in there due to some water infiltration, but we're all set with that. Yeah, so that
Just figured that would make people more
yeah, it was
comfortable as
better than the
It actually
ambient.
smells better downstairs than it does upstairs.
Yeah, but, yeah, I mean, it was, the mold testing was actually better than the outdoor ambient levels, so that was a pretty cool thing. They did a great job for us.
You wanna make any announcements about elections?
And just the polls are open from 7 to 7 tomorrow at the Town Hall at 139 Middletown Road.
Alright.
Can I just make a quick announcement? The Village Wastewater Committee wants to encourage people to go and vote tomorrow on the bond vote, and also to look for a very short information sheet that we put together, just with 3 basic points: the need for the project, the value of the project, and the touch points for residents. And we hope you'll have a chance to look at those when you come to vote. Thank you.
Alright, moving on to item 6, visitors and concerned citizens. Seeing none? Moving on to item 7, town officials business. 7A, discuss upcoming annual town meeting, Tuesday, March 5th at the town hall.
I don't know if I wanted to see anything or not. I don't know, Kevin, I just wanted to know that.
Should be fun.
I'm going to talk about GDAT, or screening and stuff, during the discussion around that, the appropriations, because Jane thought that would be appropriate. I'm also involved in something called window dressers. We make these window inserts that help insulate and cut grass. I can't use these, but I'm wondering if I could just give a short spiel if there's a quiet time. I was hoping that Doug would get here, but
I don't think that it's appropriate at the elections and town meeting. I'd say if you'd like to do something like that, the Facebook forum is a great place.
yeah, I'll do that too. Okay, thanks.
Unless anyone else disagrees. Any further discussion about town meeting?
Do you have anything else?
Well, normally you
I just said
would
before.
have assigned articles for board members to make motions on, or do you normally do that, or?
I think we have in the past when there was something specific, that somebody had, a project that an individual had been working on or something like that. It just as someone to respond to questions.
There probably will be questions about the road crew position, somebody ready to talk about that.
Road commissioner?
Yeah,
I mean,
if there
I can
are
help.
questions, I
Yeah.
could try to answer. I mean, yeah, I think I know why we're doing that. 'Cause
And
there's-
I'd be happy to talk if anybody asks questions about the town manager versus town administrator position. Is that gonna come up or not?
No,
No,
not on
that's
the
not on the
agenda.
agenda.
It didn't get on there, okay.
Would anyone like to talk about the transport services, or will we let them do that if they have a representative there?
I think Nikki's gonna be there, I would imagine, right?
I think she said she'd be there
Yeah.
Okay,
to talk about it.
because I have a feeling that one will get some questions.
Yeah.
The short-term rental administrator, that's gonna get questions probably. I can handle that.
Yeah, and the cost.
Pretty simple. We have an
Yeah.
ordinance and we have no way to enforce it without an administrator.
Right.
And it'll be covered through the registration fees.
I do have additional copies of the budget because I did make a mistake.
So will you make the motion to amend?
Well, we don't have a number in the town report, we just,
Right.
it's
So
made from the floor, but I have new copies of the
How much of a difference?
$50,000.
It was one item that
I
didn't get,
forgot to, I just didn't
it
add it
didn't
into
go
the
all the way
spreadsheet.
through.
Yep.
And And I did make a mistake on the Emerald Ash Borer Fund, so if anybody has any questions about that. I added an extra
That's very
zero.
big.
It looks like there's 90,000 in there, there's not, it's
Okay.
9,000.
And it's,
Wow.
it's a little bit redundant too, because it actually says the correct amount
Yes.
above it, so
Yeah.
most people would assume it was an error, however, somebody might question it.
Yeah.
On the matter of the local option tax, I did put together a sheet that we can use, and Tina, see, you also can use extra copies if anybody wants. But what I did is, kind of the first question is, how much revenue would the town have generated last year with the local option tax? We had to do it for last year because those are the numbers that we were able to get from the Department of Taxes. So in the retail sales, it was $38.5 million. Meals was $5 million. Alcohol, $1 million estimate. And because they don't provide those numbers because there's so few entities, if there's less than 10 entities, I think it is, they can't provide the number. So it's a rough guess of 20%. The local option tax would total $440 some odd thousand, but the state takes 30%, leaving the town with a certain amount, and then they take more. Based upon the actual number of returns. That's why the number of returns, that's just the number of people who file, who did last year, and then depending on if it's a quarterly or a monthly file, I assumed monthly. Long story short, if all three of those, if both of the motions were to pass, we would have taken in $305,000. And which is a good chunk of change. Then what I did is, how would that local option tax revenue have reduced my town tax bill? And so we just ran the numbers through, and long story short, for every $100,000 of home value, it would be savings of $72 in your taxes. And then if someone were to say, well, that translates into $7,200 worth of retail sales to equal the savings. So I think I spoke with Jeremiah, and the median home value was assessed last year roughly a little less than $300,000, I believe the number was. So if you just look at that number, if someone would save over $200 in taxes, and the break-even point for retail sales would be over $21,000. So it looks like it's a pretty good deal for most people.
And can we have this on the projector?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyway, this is just running the numbers, and
Can the local option tax only be used to reduce taxes to the town?
that's the way we have it set up in the meeting warning. It could be all revenues must go toward economic development, housing, but we didn't do that.
Right.
That could always be changed in the future.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't think it could be changed from the floor though, because it'd be
No,
changing the
no.
whole article, so.
Yeah, I don't think Doug would allow for that.
I think that there's different ways to look at that too, though. Like, you could always do it in this direction, and then you could create a fund for something else that may raise taxes separately. It would show as a savings first, and then you would have money to spend on other programs, essentially. If
Yep.
You
it
could
didn't-
budget a contribution to a fund, I imagine. Can't see why they wouldn't. Budget, actually have in the budget a contribution to another fund. I think we do that with other things, like highways, things like that.
No, we vote on them every year.
In a separate article, but
In a
it's
separate
still an appropriation directly into the fund.
Yeah.
raised by
Yeah, you
tax.
could.
You
I
could
think-
vote to say you want to put 10% of the local option tax into a fund, or
Right, and
You
I
have
think
to
by
change
you
doing
wouldn't
it,
have a flat, it could change every year. I mean, it's going to change.
right, by doing it that way, it ends up being a vote to respend the savings essentially.
Yeah.
If that was the
But I know that
case.
some communities have established, one of their local option taxes are dedicated to economic development. I've seen that. Infrastructure, whatever, what have you. Anyway, I figured this might be helpful for people.
Great, thank you.
And I assume the Parks Board has the reappropriation covered.
Yeah.
That should cover everything, I think.
And so in handling questions, or whoever wants to do it would do it. I can help explain this. One of the questions that, just changing gears a little bit to the bond vote, if that does come up for discussion and there's a question of how it's going to be paid for, one of the questions is, what's the answer to that? I mean, there was discussion by the committee who, my understanding is that the committee did approve or recommend the idea that the payment of the bond go to the voters, go to the grand list in the budget, and the fee payers would pay the operations and maintenance. That was one of the scenarios that was put together by the consultants. So that question may come up, and so I don't know if the board wants to make a decision on that tonight or not, or put it off to another select board decision in the future.
I think your point in our last meeting about similar situations where, a taxpayer may not have a student in the school, but they're paying the school tax.
Right.
And if this wastewater bond was voted for and there were people that were not receiving the benefit of it, but were still helping pay for it, it just ends up being sort of the cost of being a member of your community, essentially. And,
Right.
and it really is an essential part of the infrastructure of town. So whether you get a direct benefit or not, like the school, like other services that you pay for, the idea of building a bridge on one road that not everybody in town drives over that bridge, but we have all agreed over time to pay for those types of things collectively. Right. So I think my personal feeling is that this falls in line with those types of items, and it should be paid for through the grand list, and then operation and maintenance paid for by the user. I kind of like that scenario better than putting it all on the user.
I don't disagree with you. My concern now is that the polls open at 7 a.m. The meeting doesn't start until 9:30. We likely won't talk about this, and the polls are already open.
Well, it won't be talked about until the end of the meeting anyway. 'Cause
If
it's not on
somebody
the
brings
warrant.
it up.
If somebody asks a question.
Yeah.
That'll be the end of the meeting though, when all other business.
I mean, it seems, we seem a little late on the draw. Like, I agree with you, Taylor, that would be the direction that I would be leaning towards as well. I guess in hindsight, I wish we had maybe said that on Thursday to give it some time for it to perk its way through the community. That's all.
Right, and my response to the question was only because it might come up tomorrow.
Sure.
And how do we respond?
Mhm.
Maybe our response is we haven't decided yet. That's fine too.
Well, I think that is true. As a whole board, we have not decided.
Right.
And with Jim not here, maybe we shouldn't decide tonight because we don't have a full board.
Yeah, fair.
So
Can you list
I don't
the
know
three options?
what the answer
What are
is.
the three options for how it gets paid for in the document? I can't remember, but.
I thought it was
There were
just
two.
It was
two.
only
It would be the
All on the user.
Right.
users pay.
Mhm.
At least we could say, we will be deciding between.
A or
I think
B.
we need to be honest and upfront and say we have not voted, but here are the two choices and.
Well, and unfortunately, that may affect somebody's vote
Yep.
too.
Right.
Yep,
So,
it may.
but because that decision has not been made, that's
Right.
where we land, I think.
And whoever does stand up and speak for that, we just gotta be careful not to give any opinion, just facts.
It is the most frequent question that we get as well, just saying.
I would also just add something that could affect my ability to weigh in on it publicly as well. I actually own a property in the North Village that would be the wastewater, a new wastewater facility would be available to that property. So I would happily recuse myself from any vote if that was deemed necessary. But just saying it out loud that my position on that maybe shouldn't be considered anyway.
My understanding is that there are more than 2 options. And just to be really clear, Shane, did you say the village wastewater committee made a recommendation officially at their meeting?
According to Larry's email to me, that's what happened, right?
They've not made one to the board yet, though.
Okay. Just within their committee?
That's what was conveyed to me by
Okay.
Larry.
Yeah.
I was at the meeting, I don't recall a vote, but that's what he
Okay.
Well,
sometimes emailed to me.
Thanks
so
for
maybe
clarifying.
the appropriate protocol is that they should make a recommendation to the board, a final recommendation.
Okay.
And then we discuss it, right? Doesn't that
Yeah.
seem
It
like
seems consistent with other
Yeah,
approaches.
I mean, we've given the committee that charge to sort of guide us through the process. So,
Right.
yeah, I would encourage them to
And
present a
making this
proposal.
decision was not on the agenda either.
for tonight,
Right,
right?
that's cool.
You have
So-
another question?
No, well, no, not necessarily. So, and just for the options were to having everyone pay the just users pay, and wasn't there another option of folks in the service area too?
No, it
No,
was just
okay.
the users pay all of it, or the users pay the operations and maintenance, and the taxpayers pay down the bond.
Thank you.
So back to, what do we do if we get a question?
I think the question is, the board has not finalized a decision on the source of repayment.
And if I could, and also, that means that the board has not said no to the idea of the taxpayers paying for the bond. So they should assume that that's the case.
I think the easiest way to really answer that question is say we're not presented with the information quick enough to truly make a decision before that meeting.
All right. Well, it was part of the, not the same numbers, but similar numbers were part of the 60%.
I mean,
But that was
although,
still-
Right,
that was
yeah,
not that
yeah, no
long.
question, but we didn't affirmatively say, this is how it's gonna get paid, so,
Agreed.
yeah.
I would expect that question.
yes.
So maybe the timing of all the decision points should have been accelerated a little bit better,
In hindsight,
because I think it's leaving us vulnerable
yes.
there, but anyway. There's your question.
I just wanted to note that all of this was in the 90% report that was available
Yeah,
on
oh,
January
yeah.
30th, right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the options were there.
Any further discussion?
Just quickly, the question won't be, or shouldn't be, how will it be paid for? Because it's listed in the
choices are
report what the options for repaying it are. But the question may be, has the board made that decision? And the answer is no.
Correct, right, that's how I would understand it.
Correct. Moving on. Alright. Moving on to item 8, transfer station solid waste management. 8A's updates. I have no updates at the time. So we will move on to item 9, roads and bridges. 9A's updates.
The fuel numbers for February, the equipment's 991 gallons. That's 70 gallons to the transfer station. We used 102 ton of salt and 461 yards of sand. I don't know if anybody said, but the truck is in, it's sitting at Reed's at the moment, waiting to go to the body shop. So as of last week, they're not ready for it yet, so whatever that means. I did purchase a trailer on last Friday, and I discussed, I guess shortly with Shane and I guess Tom about maybe selling the old one or auctioning it off at that auction place or whatever or something, but bought a 7 by 18 utility trailer with a removable gate from Brown's. Pretty good.
What do we use it for?
It'll be used.
Lawnmower, culverts, moving, picking up hay bales. You know, the road signs we had to pick up.
It's replacing a smaller one that isn't as versatile, essentially.
Essentially, during the flooding, we really figured out that moving culverts is something that needs to be done, and it was my trailer that was doing it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And we were calling Tom and borrowing it when he took it home. So it just, I mean, it made sense. Like I said, it was a $5,800 trailer. I got it for $5,000, brand new.
That's great.
Me and Taylor signed off on it before.
Yeah, I checked with Tom and Taylor beforehand.
In accordance with the purchasing policy.
Like I said, we've got the other one that we can hopefully sell and recoup some of our money back. So.
Josh, can I ask a question going forward? Can we have those monthly statistics arrayed so we can see what prior years look like? And also how it compares to budget, if we had budgeted, you know, evenly across the months. I know it's a data input problem, but to me it means nothing when I hear those statistics about fuel and whatever the other things are, you know.
Salt and sand.
Salt and sand, and if, I love data, and I think it'd be instructive to sort of see how maybe this was a heck of a year in terms of whatever. It just, if somebody is able to help you data input, put the data in, that would be helpful to me.
We'd have to go through what, the town, or through the select board meetings, minutes for, and just dig it out of the minutes, right, from last year, or?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's paperwork right now, it's not.
Yeah.
Troy was working on a computer program to, you know, do all this and make it like a shared. And I don't know, because we were trying to record like equipment filters and so you can just go
I mean,
online.
and no rush at all, just.
Yeah.
I think that is a good idea, though. It could, once he figures out the program, it'd be easy to add extra columns that would be salt, sand, and fuel that could be cumulative.
Well, that's what we've been trying to do, you know, tire chains and everything, just try to compare.
Yeah.
Right now, since I've been road foreman, I've been purchasing the same amount. But like with the tire change right now, I'm 3 sets ahead of the game, which could be good for a bad year. You know, this year we haven't even, usually we use 2 sets a year, we haven't even, I don't think we've each been through 1 set yet. So, you know, and cutting edges and.
Without really figuring out the data, I think this year has been better on the resources than the previous year.
Too loudly.
It's only the first week of March.
It actually goes
into that
question that I kind of had. I know you don't have a concrete answer at all, but do you think we're using less sand and salt this year?
Sand, definitely.
Yeah. Salt does.
Well, that's how I'm trying to, like, my plan was to use the budget.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the way to be, but it's gonna give the extra to next year, because most places try to fill their shed in the spring before prices go up.
Right.
You know, and I figured I'd try to use the budget up and see, like normally there's 10 feet pushed in the back of the shed, and we're
It
almost.
doesn't deteriorate, eh?
No, I mean, we do have to block that one wall that keeps getting brought up, because moisture does, you know, blow in when it's raining, and
Yeah.
It will harden it a little bit, but, I mean, we haven't, maybe in the last 3 years, 2 wheelbarrow loads of salt, I think, has been, you can say, thrown
Yep.
away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try to move what's in the back to the forward and put the fresh, keep it circulated.
Yeah.
You get back far enough to be able to do that. I mean, the sand wise, I think, like next year, my guess is do 3,000 yards instead of the 4. I mean, if I had room for doing 4, I think I would do it again just because, so you got it. But, I mean, that's something to discuss over the summer.
Yeah, just to get ahead.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it in the past with, trying to keep not just empty the shed and have it fall into the next season. So anytime that there's room in the shed and there's budget left, I think it does make sense to spend that budget to put it in the shed.
Yeah.
Just because then if you don't, you'd be making up for it in the following year all at once.
Right.
And then the numbers are all over the place, so.
Well,
I
that's-
But if you got a big over expenditure on the salt side, maybe hold off on filling it.
Yeah.
Well, it would, yeah, that would only apply if the shed was empty. We wouldn't buy more than what would, reasonably fit, it seems like, right?
And right now, I don't think I've gone over on the budget. It's staying, trying to keep it under.
Yeah.
But, like you said, you have the money, you keep it full and work towards the next season. And I mean, you look at the prices have gone up every year since I became road foreman.
Until we know for sure that it's not gonna snow next winter,
Yeah.
it's probably not that policy.
Yeah, we're gonna use it. And I have been purchasing, we got the hose making machine, because it seems like your hose blows on Sunday or, when nobody's open to make one, so,
That's very smart.
we can do that. I've been trying to get extra, like all our plow equipment, when this new truck's built, all 4 of them are pretty much gonna be identical. So we can keep, a bed chain around, a wing arm, common things that are gonna break and you're gonna have problems with. So if you do have the problem, you can easily fix it and get back to doing what we're doing,
Yep.
so.
Perfect. Sounds good. Anything else?
That's all I-
Anything
I was just gonna mention real quick, people around town have probably noticed the tree service.
Yes.
That's, there's a company called TTS contracted by Green Mountain Power. And they're all around town. They've got all kinds of equipment that has not been used previously.
A remarkable arm with this blade on the end of it was
Yeah.
parked up on Milltown Road.
Yeah, those are
Oh my
pretty cool.
God, yeah.
So I think they're doing a good job, and they do have a job to do, so that type of work is messy. I actually spoke with the foreman this morning, just to follow up on an area where it looked like the road had been affected by the work that was being done. And so far, it didn't make sense for us to go and make the repair just because the condition of the road and the weight of our vehicles. I don't believe that this company has any registered overweight vehicles because I think they're all underweight, perhaps, if that's the way to describe it. Most of it is equipment or some of it is equipment that's off-road too. So they have tracked machines and rubber tired machines that are, they would be trailered from site to site or quickly between sites. Yeah.
I followed the skidder thing you were talking about down Middletown Road today.
Oh, really?
Went down right through town and up over Hell's Peak Road, because I stopped to get Taylor, stopped and got him the phone number there. It was pretty interesting to see that. Going down the road.
Yeah. So the gentleman I spoke with, we talked about, their policy on, whether or not they work on a road if the conditions are bad. And he did say, he kind of said all the right things, so I just said, well, let's just keep in touch and feel free to call me back if there's any other concerns. But he said, in general, if they encounter a bad spot, they will wait for a day when it freezes in the morning, or once something starts to thaw out or break up, they'll move to another area. And I have seen them doing that actually, where it looks like they're jumping all around and it's because of conditions, so. It seemed like their response to my call and inquiry was good, so I think we'll probably survive it. They're only gonna be in the area, you know, they'll be in this area until the work is done, obviously,
Right.
which it is a fair amount of work, so they will be around for a while, but,
And they're
just thought it was.
I think they're relocating lines too on 11 at some point.
It would be a different company, Green Mountain Power, you mean? Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of projects slated for, Weston is another big one, parts of Route 11.
Sounds good. All right, we'll move on to 9B then. Discuss V-Trans fiscal year 2025 municipal highway grant application. So Josh, what your thought was when you asked?
That's what I was, I mean, it's not getting better,
Yeah.
so.
And it's not flood related, so
Yeah,
it's not flood related, so we might not find any money for that one.
when you go into this.
I mean, we didn't eat, well, Shane and I met with Scott that time, and I think it was an 8-foot box, right, he said?
Yeah, he was gonna come, he was gonna do a hydraulic study for us, and it never happened. But, yeah, he was talking about replacing, is it a 4-foot culvert?
5.
Is it, either, anyway, we're talking about a box culvert, and of course, that's big money eventually.
It does seem like it's the same waterway that goes underneath Route 100, and they have a very large project planned for their
Yeah,
under drain.
they have a
which-
box culvert going in there at some point.
Right, so
Is this
it-
in your house?
it'd be kind of curious to
That-
see.
Nasty
dark
spot.
spot.
Not that it has to be done at the same time, but just, it's the same waterway, so I don't know why they would make, you know, they're not gonna allow a 4-foot culvert when the state's putting in 8-foot structure, you know, literally 100 yards away.
I talked to Mark Pickering like 2 years ago and it was supposed to be done the next year, but last time I talked to him, he said he doesn't know when that's gonna be done.
That's a complicated one on the state highway because of the depth. It's really far in the ground and it would block both lanes and they'd have to divert
Send a
traffic
lot of
onto
traffic up
town.
our road.
Yeah,
Over our back culvert.
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely gonna be some challenges surrounding that project.
Yeah, sounds like we made a decision. Alright. Moving on to
You don't
9C.
make a motion on that?
No,
I recommend a motion.
sorry.
I would move to authorize the town administrator to submit an application for funding under V-Trans Municipal Highway Grant Program for Windy Rise Lane West.
It's road, isn't it?
Windy Rise.
Windy Rise West, whatever it is.
Windy Rise West.
Culvert.
It's Windy Wires Lane.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we'll move on to 9C. Consider applications for excess vehicle weight permits. Anybody got to that?
Just baby in.
We'll have a bunch at the next meeting.
They put it every year.
I move to approve the excess weight permits for Fabian Earth Moving Incorporated and authorize the town administrator to execute the permits on behalf of the town.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving on to item 10, old business. 10A is short-term rental ordinance, establish registration fees.
I handed out to you all, I'll take it here, sir. Excuse me 1 second. Bob Fisher had responded to the 3 questions that the board posed at the last regular meeting, which were as follows: can registration fees be used for expenses unrelated to administration of the STR ordinance? Second question was, can registration fees be different for different types of STRs? And then lastly, do these answers change if the board issues a license quote as opposed to registration? And Bob's feeling was, he stated that no was the answer to the first one, in other words, they could not be used for expenses unrelated to administration. Can they be different for different types of STRs? He said yes, with some other additional information. And then do these answers change if it's a license as opposed to registration? The answer was no. So we have that. We also have, Melissa's sent around information about the city of Winooski and their approval of short-term rental fees and an ordinance of some sort. So that's the most, and then also I handed out a letter we received this afternoon from the attorney for Ben Sargent. Do you have that?
Nicholas Lowe.
Yeah, Nicholas Lowe. I'm not sure where he went. Oh, here it is, yeah. So yeah, some comments were related to the proposal from the Housing Commission.
So I still, if we have 140 like Melissa did the homework on, I think 450 is a good registration, and then we can find out how many homestead and non-homestead we have, and we can look into the information next year and maybe change it.
I wouldn't mind talking about or learning more about, maybe somebody has an answer. Bob refers to in his response the fact that, see if I can find it. I don't know where I read it, but anyway, what I was thinking about was, will we have information about the number of people in a particular STR? Like if it's, would you change, or would you adjust the fee for like a 1-bedroom rental that served 2 people in 1 vehicle versus a 8-bedroom that served 16 people and 8 cars, or it would we differentiate based on size?
We'd have more information once they register, and we'll be able to know how many
Well, they have to include that.
occupants they can legally have with our ordinance.
They have to include that anyway.
But
I don't know that there'd be a difference in the administration of that, if the information is being provided and they have to give the wastewater permit, if applicable. I don't know if there's more work to that or not.
I think there's an exponential factor of problem if you go from a 2-person short-term rental to a 16-person. So I think the challenges of managing the rental, if it's that big, is potentially very large.
That was, when I was reading it, that's what I was kind of thinking was, like, it may become more work for the administrator.
That's where things tend to get out of hand.
And I think that's somewhere where we need the information to really be able to act on next year.
But the information could be provided in the registration.
Well, that's what I mean. It will be provided in the registration, and then next year we'll have the information to look at. We'll have actual
When we
concrete
originally
information.
When we originally began working on a fee structure, we looked at the number of rooms. And our concern was that it would be more difficult to pass it with the whole board because it might be complicated, more complicated of a fee structure. So we went for something a little bit simpler, which was the 3 tiers, was our recommendation. I mean, if you all will rewind back to the communication that was sent to us by one of our members in the community who was a short-term rental operator, that was a suggestion for a fee schedule similar to that, the amount of people. So, I mean, there's 100 ways we could do it. We just have to agree on which one we want to do.
I think the most limiting factor is the amount of money that we can make. Right? Is that fair to say? That we can't really make.
It's not a revenue producing.
Right. So
registration is
the
not
idea
revenue.
of
Correct.
having one of
That's
the
been made
registration-
very clear now, so that's not even, it's understood.
Yep.
450 if there is the 140, if that is the accurate number, it equals out to 63,000, so that's 50,000 for the STR administrator and $13,000 for computer and whatever else they're gonna need.
That's two separate fees, one at 140 and one at 450, you're saying?
No, I'm just saying 450 period. And then once we have the
He's using the
information,
150 as the number of.
Oh, I see.
140
Okay,
is the number.
so one fee at 450.
and then next year, once we have all this information, we can go through the information.
Hmm.
And if we wanna change it and do a fee structure, we have that information to actually look at. Cause right now, we're just guessing. We wouldn't be able to tell you how many non-homestead or homestead right now.
I don't agree. I think that, I think that we can make an educated guess based on the housing study. We can look at the information, the Air DNA from Airbnb and VRBO. That'll tell us how many approximately that there are. And I would like to think that, and I disagree with the comment that you made at the last meeting, Shane, where you felt that somebody might choose down to, you know, not tell the truth on their application in order to not
Choose down?
maybe not put themselves as unhosted, say maybe that they're hosted, so they would pay a lesser fee.
I think what you
But
were saying,
my point
I
is,
think what Shane was
It's not
saying
necessary.
more was that that an individual may not fess up to being like a corporation, like a
Investment property.
investment property, because that's the one that's hard to differentiate. Not so much between hosted and unhosted, but more between.
well, I think if we look at what Winooski is doing with hosted and unhosted,
Do you like the fact that it's two? I mean, is that a?
I mean,
is that
I'm
a good
willing to go
compromise?
Abraham Lincoln style and say I can take 10 steps. I don't
You
have to
listen
go
to the same
I don't have to
podcast
go
I
the
did.
whole mile today, but I can go 10 steps and then I'll make up the rest of the mile here at some point. But I would be willing to compromise for a hosted and an unhosted. But I do believe that the hosted should be much less than the unhosted. I think that is.
Well, the hosted, you have to be on the property, you can't just live in town. If you have a property that's not the one you live in, that's unhosted.
Correct, that's what the ordinance states, yes.
So
I'd be willing to go with two.
99% is probably gonna be unhosted.
Well, let's find out. I mean,
So
That's what I mean.
if
We
you
need
think
the information to
100
find
are unhosted. So let's
I
just
would
do,
say 130 are probably unhosted. There's
well, we
probably
only
not
have
many hosted.
140, so.
I'm just saying, if we have the information next year and we just do a flat fee this year, we can actually look it over and make a more informed decision if we want to go with a stepped. Then we have the information. We can look at it and we can make an informed decision then. We're making a half-informed decision now if we try to go with a step program.
And there's no way to like structure or to word the application so that information is immediate, like.
Yeah, you will be getting the immediate information.
You'll be
if
getting it,
somebody
but-
signs up.
The
We-
minute they sign up.
But
Yeah.
we're still not having that information now making a fee.
True, but we
We
also,
need the information later
I know.
to look at it. and
But I
make a
think
fee.
we can err on the side of caution because we've done our due diligence that, you know, we're not. I think for them to be flat fees across the board, that to me is unfair.
450 is one night. One night.
well, but I think if you remember Melissa telling us why the commission, the group was formed and did this was because we knew we had some issues with out of control. And so therefore, I would agree that we need to, right from the beginning, do something that differentiates between the hosted and the unhosted.
And
And if we want to elaborate on that next year because we have more data, I think that's
well,
fine.
my question is, how are we going to guarantee we're going to actually make enough money to pay for this person if we're doing it this way? Because we don't know the numbers. The way I'm
Well,
doing
we're
it,
all,
we have the right amount of money. And then next year, we explore and we have information. Seems the most practical way to do it to me.
well, if we think the number of unhosted, what do we guess the number of unhosteds are? Is it small?
We think that the secondary home, which would then go as an unhosted, is definitely 80, and then there's what we would refer to as income properties, which are the larger ones, which
So
are
it's more
also
than half.
unhosted, so it's 100. Tom seems to think that the hosted, or the ones that we were originally referred to as homestead, is going to be much less than 40.
I think so. I doubt you have 40 people renting out a room in their house.
So
It could be an
if,
ADU.
It could
Let's
be an
just say
ADU, but you
that-
have to live
let's
on
do-
that property.
It's not subject, an ADU is not subject to the ordinance. Because it's 30 days or more,
If they're renting to the short-term rental,
then it would be.
yes.
let's do
Heather
it
does
this
have,
way.
Heather does have a
ADU.
question, or did have
I
a
know.
question.
No, I definitely do when you all are.
Can I say one suggestion? If the hosted number is small, why don't we put all the revenue on the unhosted ones and make the hosted one a small fee, and we're not gonna make a whole bunch of money if it's a low number and a low fee. If you
Right.
make the unhosted
The unhosted.
450 and make the hosted 150, and if it's 10 people, I mean, that's like, it's less than a couple $1,000.
Does the math
so
work?
that money could easily be spent on administration, or, you know, we're not gonna put ourselves way over because it's a low number of people with a low fee.
Get out your calculators.
Does that make
And
sense?
that sets it,
It makes sense.
and it says what our intent is. We want to differentiate between the two types. Right?
Yes.
So if we have-
Remember that at the town meeting, on the STR administrator, once that number is set, you can't go over, it. So, just remember that, that's all.
It's 450.
We can't go
Is-
over it like by $1, or we can't go
Can't
over
go over
it
it
like
by-
a certain percentage?
By $1, you can't go over it. That's why we're
This
moving-
you can't generate more revenue than it costs you to run the program, is that what you're saying?
No, talking
can't.
about the wages
If
for the
you-
individual.
Yeah, if you underestimate the cost and have the fees less than
Right.
what you need to generate the income, you can't take it from the budget. That's why we're moving the,
So we need to
the sheriff's
err on the
department into the budget,
high
because
side.
it creates flexibility. You do not have flexibility when it's a town meeting warning article. If you say, well, I can't remember the number, 50,000, that's all you can spend on.
What's our bogey that we have to make? We said 60, 65?
Around 60 would probably be good to have enough money to give them whatever they need, plus the 50,000.
Let's round it to 500.
So if we go back to Taylor's original, and I know Heather has something to add, but
Shay answered most of my questions. When you all are finished, I do have something else to add, but please continue.
so we do have in this short-term rental registration a couple of things that if you are open to, there might be another way to skin the cat. So, Article 4D says operators of 3 or more STRs must show proof of registration with the Corporations Division of the Office of the Vermont Secretary of State. So in my opinion, 3 or more STRs, you're running a business. That's not a hobby. So there's our business indicator right there. So we could potentially leave, or just hang on to that for a second. There's also another item in here that talks about an application for a short-term rental registration for dwelling units with a capacity of greater than 8 occupants. So we're referencing 8 occupants. Would you all be open to having a conversation that if it's a building that can occupy more than 8 people, that there should be a higher fee charged?
I still don't think we have the information though.
Well,
To
I can
make an
tell you,
informed
I
decision.
can tell you about 5 right now, off the top of my head.
Yes, you can tell about 5, but we don't have the information. I think we need to do this simple the first year and get the information. And then we have the information, we can sit down and we can make a real informed decision.
I feel like we're missing the boat.
Yeah, I think we need to make a statement right out of the gate that we're differentiating between the homesteader and all others. And all others seem to be a fairly large group, and if we just set a rate at, say, 600, and you figure there are 100 in that category, that's $60,000. And then you charge the 20 or so that are homesteaders $200, and you get close. And the difference in the rate says what we're trying to say, which is we're concentrating, and we have to concentrate our expenses as a town on those bigger properties. Everything's going to be a gamble in terms of just how many we're talking about. So just pick safe numbers.
That is a gamble, yeah, but everything else is an even bigger gamble. Until we have information, we are uninformed.
I hear what you're saying, but if we're trying to move this process through, can you agree to the fact that we need to show the homesteaders that we understand that this is their business and we're only going to charge them, let's say, 200?
Sure.
And then
I
you,
wish we knew how many of those we actually had.
we don't know.
I know, that's why I'm saying if we do
But at
this
least
this
we're
year,
safe. Well, at least we're
next
safe.
year we can do this.
But at least we're safe if we charge 600 for everybody else. I'm assuming there are
Well, that's
100.
if Tom's numbers are right. Because if Tom's number is wrong, there are many more homesteaders.
The 140, we don't, yeah.
We're in trouble.
Could be, yeah.
I think you're right, but if you're not,
Well, so if you just go with the numbers that the Housing Commission, the data that we gathered, 40 homestead and 100 other.
how
Run
did you
those
get to 40
numbers.
homestead? I don't remember.
I mean, it's numbers that we based on the housing study. We even took our income properties down into second homeowners because we felt that there would be some questions.
Well, the problem with that housing study is they had units from other towns.
I went in and teased all of those other towns' numbers out.
I still think the easiest way to do it is one fee this year. Next year we can dive into the actual stuff because we have the information. We don't have the information.
But we also want to give
We can
credence.
do that next year.
Yeah, I think part of our job is to give credence to the work that the committee did, which was to differentiate the two. And I think it's important right out of the gate to find some way to differentiate them.
I think you're gonna come up short if you try to make the numbers with 40 hosted. You're gonna come up short on money.
Well,
And then we're gonna lie to the public saying that everything's gonna be covered by registration fee. That's another thing, we don't wanna lie to the public.
no,
You just can't do it. I mean, as soon as you hit that dollar number, the program ends. You just can't spend any more than is allowed.
Yeah, and we don't know how much work it's gonna be for this person either. If we do one flat fee, it makes it simple for them for the first year, and we can figure out if that needs to be a full-time or part-time position. I think it just makes everything simple and gives us the information to really make an informed decision next year.
I don't agree. I haven't agreed. So, let the record show I don't agree.
I hear what you're saying. I guess it's just a general comment is it like seems, I hear that we don't have the data, we don't have this. It seems like you have some information and you have goals. I don't know why at this point you don't have the data, like, and maybe that's something that you can explain, because there's Airbnb, there's VRBO, there's the state taxes, like this is data sheets you all should have access
State
to.
does give you access, Airbnb doesn't give you access, VRBO doesn't give you access, no one gives you access. The only way you can do it is go online
Well, or start a
Yourself.
registration program.
Yes.
And now, is
Basically
there
what
like
we're doing.
any surveys or anything you could like put out in advance to folks in town? Like hypothetically, I'm a person in town, do you have an Airbnb, yes
That
or
would
no?
delay us a whole nother year.
No, I'm not, so I'm
Yeah.
totally not saying, like, that may be something you could have done, right? I don't know. It's just a struggle. Like, I hear what you're saying, it just seems like another thing that's just, I don't know.
So what's the number you want to charge for everything?
If this 140 number is correct, 450 across the board. Next year, we have the information, we can make it higher for not unhosted and lower for hosted. I mean, right now, we just don't have the information. It could be more than 140, it could be less than 140, who knows?
450 times 140
It's 63.
is 63,000.
And that should give any fees to buy a computer, whatever programs they need, mileage on the car, you gotta think about it.
Is there any way, and this might be a stupid question, but if we end up short for the program in the first year, is there any way to change the fee schedule at the end of that year and make up for it in the following year? Like, it's all fees
Earn more the second
collected.
year.
Right, charge more to not pay
Offset.
back necessarily, but just to correct the shortage? I guess
The
that.
question I would have is the 1% fee that's already being charged that we are getting back to go to the reducing taxes. Why couldn't some of that money be used to fill any gap? Because it is going to reduce taxes.
It would have to be voted on, I would assume, I could be wrong about that.
It goes into the general fund, so technically it
We could use it
could
to
be
cover.
used for, I suppose.
I'd say you can't use it for the program because the position's being hired. I mean, the board chooses to have new positions go to the voters. It's not required to be done. That's the practice. Once that happens and you raise the dollar amount, that's all you've got. That's what they vote on. It could be raised, the dollar amount could be.
Well, and that's why I was saying.
It seems that,
should
it
almost be a
seems that
vote.
you can, the bottom line is the bottom line, and that funds at times have been moved to cover certain areas that maybe have fallen short, if I'm not mistaken.
In the budget, it's, you can do it any day you want, but this is not part of the budget, this is a voted item. It's like when we voted on, the voters approved $40,000 for, signs and things like that. That's all we had to spend, we couldn't spend more. But that's the will of the voters, and that's what they approved. That amount could be changed at town meeting. But the methodology, that's a question for Doug Frank, whether or not the methodology on how that gets paid, i.e. the fees, whether that could be changed.
But it doesn't change Bob Fisher's statement that you can only charge as much in fees to pay for the position,
Which,
correct?
Pay for the position and what
it
they
pretty
use.
much makes it an impossible question because you can't be under, but you can't be over. So what does that leave?
Gotta be right on.
No, you can make more.
Where
It's
does-
supposed to.
Where does
Where
the
does that go?
money get to go? Goes in.
That goes to unassigned fund balance.
So let me try one more time with Tom.
The intention can't be to raise money.
Right,
And
no,
you can
the
make a
intention
little
is
bit
not
more.
to, but again, this is our first year. If we want to embrace the idea that we want to differentiate between the homesteaders and the second homeowners, then at a minimum, charge $450 for everybody and take a slightly higher rate, so you're differentiating, and pick, I don't know, 500, 600 for those people who are the second homeowners, or whatever we're calling those, the non-homesteads. You're still gonna make 63, you're still gonna make 63 grand, which is your bogey, and you may be a little bit over because you've guessed a little bit, but at least you've been able to achieve what the Housing Commission, or whatever this group was, the short-term rental group, was hoping to also do, which was to make a statement that we recognize the difference between the two categories. We can inflate and make those differences much bigger in the future based on what we discover in years, but at least you're still achieving both project goals, which is get the program running and also be able to indicate that we are referencing two different types of units here.
I think we're just getting them the information so they can continue their work once we have the information.
Well,
And
just,
then we can come up with a real informative fee structure.
and
for
just so
unhosted.
you're aware, the original, the fee structure that was put together for this purpose came from the select board saying that, yes, they wanted to prohibit short-term rentals for investment purposes, and they wanted to put reasonable limits on short-term rentals, no to prohibit short-term rentals of second homes. So they wanted second homes to still be able to do it, but we wanted to cap down on the short-term rentals for investment purpose only.
I don't believe
I don't
that's
think-
captured in our ordinance.
It's, yeah, it's not in the
It's not
purpose
captured in
statement.
the ordinance,
It's not in
but
the purpose statement.
this is what we all said at a board meeting.
And that's what we wrote down and voted on.
You know what,
for
you
a
guys are
purpose.
toying with me.
I'm not
You really
toying with
are.
you. I'm saying
You are
that's-
totally toying with me.
That's the purpose we wrote down for an ordinance.
I have said this statement every meeting when it comes to short-term rentals, and no one has said a word about it until right now that it's not in the purpose statement. I am merely telling you, when we were tasked to put together a short-term rental ordinance, it was because we wanted to discourage short-term rentals as investments. That is the information that I captured.
I think
And
most
now
of
this
it
is-
was to discourage party houses was the big reason. And that's what we do by
This is really
having
disappointing,
fines.
very disappointing.
I think we can do the unhosted hosted, but once we have the information. That's my, if we don't have the information.
You have information. You know how many you think you're working with.
We have guesses.
It's not like I pulled it out of thin air.
Yeah, it's not.
It's information that was collected.
But we don't know how many hosted and unhosted
Okay,
there actually are.
okay.
This way we actually make the money and get the information and then we move on. And we have the
I think
information, we
regardless
can
of
come
the
up with a
way
better
that we
way to
come
do
up with the money, I feel like it's more responsible to actually raise a little bit more money than it is to not raise enough.
Correct.
That's not really answering the question, but I think to look at it again, if we're gonna try to choose, do the 450 for, or do the math for the unhosted, for the whole 63,000, and then as a possible overage, add a smaller fee for a smaller amount of people, and then you might be over, but you're not risking being under by subtracting the hosted properties from the 63,000. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It does.
So you're suggesting a two-tier system.
Divide two
Yeah.
tiers, yeah?
Yeah.
So divide 63,000 by
140?
100,
100, yeah, which is $630.
right?
Mhm.
And then create a smaller fee for the smaller amount of, potentially smaller amount of people that it gives you the chance of going over the $63,000, which we don't know
It
if
might
we
be
will or not.
$8,000
but-
bucks. I mean, if it's 40 homes or it's 30 homes or 20 homes, if it's 40 and you charge them $200, that's $8,000, which is, so that ends up back in the general fund because we don't spend it, that's fine.
So if the 50,000 only allows for a part-time job, which assuming we're talking 20 hours a week, right?
We're talking up to, what was it, 29, I think?
Yeah,
No more than
non-benefit
29
accrual.
Or
hours.
more than 29.
Right, okay, so maybe as this new program rolls out, it turns out to be more of a job and that money is easily spent in extra hours. as part of the rollout.
Well, the problem is they can't spend extra hours because then we have to give them health insurance and benefits.
Above 29 hours.
Right, you have
So
to
the-
offer them, under the Obamacare, you have to offer
So
them.
they can only work 29 hours a week with.
Yeah,
Then
So the
they cross the
50,000
threshold and
happen
go
anyway.
to benefits, and then it's $70, $80, $90,000 position with benefits.
So I'm not doing the math in my head, but did we base the 50,000 on 29 hours a week or 20?
I think we just.
I can't remember right now.
I don't know.
well, you're right, what 50,000 divided by 1080, 1040 is, which is half time.
Isn't the 29,000 base an average over a year, so we could put a bunch of time in, or her at first and then less later on?
I believe that would work, yeah.
I believe it is.
Thank you.
Well, I like your idea, Taylor, not
So-
far off from mine.
40 people at,
Pick a number. 200 bucks? Get you 8,000.
well, I guess it depends on how much we would want to risk being over, essentially. Because we're already funding the entire program with unhosted.
Right.
So if it was $100 for a hosted, that would be $4,000 more dollars.
I think that comes back to we just need the information from the registry, and then we can really make an informed decision.
Well, that money, the extra, any excess that we don't spend, just, it'll go into the general fund, correct?
Well, and the purpose being that you're reducing the fee to significantly
Right.
to the people that we're saying we're trying to protect in all
Right.
this, if that's the
Right.
case, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, $150 would be 6,000 over, so.
That gets us to 70,000.
How about to be safe, we go 20 unhosted and 120, or 120 unhosted and 20 hosted then, if we're gonna do it that way.
Wait, 120 unhosted and 20, yep.
Because I
So-
think it's gonna come out less hosted.
So
than-
2 times, yep, so 20 times 200 or
That's
whatever the number is.
525 would be
Yep,
120 applicants unhosted for 120, excuse me, times 525 is the 63,000. So you're fully funded.
What was the number again? 120.
600 times,
63,000, which is the whole
right,
budget, divided by
By
120 unhosted,
is what?
525.
Round it to 550.
Okay, and then what would we do for the unhosted?
So 550 times 120, that's, you're at 66,000. You're already above the
Because if you do,
target a little
Yeah.
bit. But
if you do 500 times 120, it's 60,000 on the dot.
500.
And then you can do 20 times,
150 or something.
that's 3,000, that gets you there.
So 150 and 600, is that what you're saying?
Alright. No, 150 and 500.
And 500. That's a significant split. I think it sends a message. How does that feel, Melissa?
Icky.
Icky? Is it better than it was?
It's 10 steps.
Mm-hmm. Those first 10 steps are the first 10. We'll get the next ones.
I can agree to that one.
I think that's okay with me, and I think that the way that it varies from the three things that we sort of agreed, or were saying, were our general sentiment in the beginning of this was, or is now apparent to me that we can't necessarily accomplish like the really high fee for the investment properties. So I think this is a compromise. It's unfortunate it doesn't match our initial sentiment, although it does indicate, or it does do something to the effect of separating the different applicants. So
Right.
I don't know how else we can do more than that at this point. I think that's a good start, and I think working towards focusing on the investment properties, that's the next go round. Has, you know, not has to, but should include that type of property. But I don't think right now there's not enough. We need to be able to spend more money, which might mean turning this into a full-time job or having a, you know, we just need to be able to expand the whole program to
Right.
be able to charge more.
Yep.
So even though it was our initial sentiment, I don't think that we can accomplish that based on the legal standpoint of rolling out the program. That's just my feeling.
Well, there's a lack of compliance. There could be a lot of work on the part of the individual and potentially the town attorney. You know, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think we should try to make it as simple as possible to register for people, no matter who they are.
And I do think that that information will allow us to staff ourselves properly for what we run into.
Yep.
And if it's staffing and legal fees and car mileage and all those things add up significantly more, then the first fee we roll out is on investment properties.
Correct.
That can pay for the difference immediately. I mean,
Anyone care to make the motion, Mike?
I'll try it. Let's see. Okay. I move to establish the following short-term rental registration application fees in keeping with Article 5 of the Town of Londonderry Ordinance to regulate the operation of short-term rentals, with such fees being applicable on the effective date of the ordinance, which shall be $150 per year, July 1 to June 30, for hosted short-term rentals. And, is this gonna work out all right? Yes, I'm reading the second one. And $500 per year for unhosted short-term rentals.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright. Moving on to 10B, consider amendments to personnel policy.
Did you get an answer about a conflict of interest statement or something?
I did, and I worked it into the language that's in your reading packet on page
22?
Hang on, 22, there it is, okay. I'm sorry. 219.
Well, actually, that particular part is,
Okay.
it was on the nepotism part, you see?
Yep.
Who's that?
that's.
Is it
for-
Shane 10, number 10? No, that's not it. That's number
Nepotism
15.
is on 25.
Yeah, and in there is language that, give me one second.
May make exceptions.
This is what Bob Fisher responded on Saturday. He sent me this. We go to the second page. Here, could be past. We go to the second page of that. I've highlighted where.
Generally.
Yeah, second page, in everything in blue was what he recommended. And where he writes the word generally, I neglected to put that in, but will. But he's saying, notwithstanding the above, the town may make written exceptions to this anti-nepotism policy when the town can make arrangements or provide alternatives to the supervising relative
That works.
being the direct supervisor of the employee relative. If and when the town makes an exception to the anti-nepotism policy, the town shall do so in writing and shall set forth the alternate supervisor in writing so as to avoid conflicts in giving the instruction, work directives, and evaluations.
And who did you get this disclosure of conflict of interest?
That is,
The LCT?
no, that is from the Vermont Ethics Council. And Bob said, yeah, it's kind of overkill. And I was thinking I could shave it down a little bit. We don't need to do it now, but, you know, in the coming weeks or so to make it a little, instead of,
Use the lab, okay.
you know, I was making change.
Is this the only section we're working on tonight?
What I did do is on page, I just wanted to show you, if you go to page 22 of 39, under persons covered, we removed previously proposed applicability to elected officials and removed that addendum B that was at the end. So we did that. And then I didn't really make changes to conflicts of interest because we didn't really, the board didn't really make any decisions on that, i.e. removing grandparent and.
Well, if we're doing that under nepotism, shouldn't we do it under conflict?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
wouldn't
think
it
so.
follow, I mean, yeah, can't you just like
Just
cut and paste, sort of? Mm.
It's easy to just pull those out, but
Yeah.
the board didn't make any
skimmed over it.
motions or anything like that on it. So I'm happy to pull those for the next one. Just
Yep.
make it consistent.
Yep.
So those first few pages, at this point, you know, we're kind of stopping at section 11, drug and alcohol use. Maybe we'll start on that at the next time around.
Yep.
Okay, so
Sounds good.
we're good through 10. Any-
Yeah. That's a good question about this.
Yeah.
When is this like really getting signed in, and I keep getting asked that question every once in a while. Is there like a end date to this, or are you, or is it?
I mean, we're open to it. Yeah,
We're trying to drag it out as long as we can, really.
yeah. I mean, what we decided to do,
Well, no, I mean, it's. you
it
know,
always ends up being this time of the night, when people are tired and want to go home.
Right.
Well, how much more do we have after that of personnel policy?
There's changes.
Well, there's
to
23
vacations and
pages.
things.
No, but I mean, how much
Asking questions.
more that's probably gonna need talking about, really?
Social media policy will probably need to be talked about.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, if we can get it done in 4 more meetings, that would be great.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. But again, we're trying to just cut it into little pieces so that we're not spending 4 hours here.
Overwhelmed.
It's the social media policy, I see that one taking some time.
Yeah,
I can't remember many others that would really,
well, there's some
That's the only one that stuck out for me.
yeah.
vacation time. We were talking a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I get asked questions, like, because there's changes to vacations and things
Yeah.
like that, and
So that could be another one.
people are inquiring, you know,
Yep.
that when this would be in place, would it be, you know, July or, you know, next January?
Hopefully by July.
So,
We're hoping
so
so.
if I get asked again, I mean, that's kind of why I'm hanging out.
Yeah.
was For that question was,
Yeah.
you know, the boys planning vacations and.
We're hoping
to.
Are
not
we
much
making
longer.
material changes to vacation policies and stuff? I don't think we
We're
are,
adding
are we?
more, changing the way you.
There's,
We
received
accrue it or
yeah.
something?
Yeah, the way you receive
Yeah.
it.
yeah, there's a little change to it.
Yeah.
I
Right.
can't remember.
I didn't include that,
Yeah.
the whole, I didn't include all 24,
Yeah.
23
Right.
pages, so.
So if we go in order, it probably, would it likely be in, where does that fall in the policy?
I don't know, I mean, we could put those benefits in the next one if you want, just to get it done and over with, and then you go back to the other pieces. I just figured we'd go sequentially through,
Right.
Yeah, I think,
or at least those things that were related to one another.
Well, and here's another question that, I mean, how do, if somebody's already been hired and they signed the personnel policy when they were hired. If we make a change after someone's been hired, how do we apply the new policy to an existing employee? Do they
We have to read
You
it.
distribute it to everybody and they have to
They
sign
have
the
to sign.
document that says, yes, I've received it.
So
Yep.
potentially, the way that this will look, when all of our edits are made and we have a new policy, we will distribute it for signatures at
Yes.
that time.
Yes.
Yeah, well, no, you all sign it. I give it to every town employee. There's I think there should be an addendum at the end. Yeah,
An
addendum A,
acknowledgement.
actually, is
Yeah.
the acknowledgement of receipt.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
And they
have,
don't have to accept it.
right, they don't, and we
But that's
also,
the rules.
yeah, and we can look at somebody's particular circumstances and decide,
It's just a policy.
yeah, something different, you know.
And if we get it wrong, we just change it. That's what we're doing now. It's been years and years of it being the same, and a lot of rules and regulations have changed. The employee marketplace has changed, and so we're trying to keep up with the times.
I'd say goal is definitely budget law.
I'm pushing it. So, I have
No, well, I mean, I keep seeing it on the agenda, and that's why, like I said, I kinda, because we all heard about it.
Well, it hit the back
A few
burner
months
for a
ago.
while.
And then it was like, well, you know, some of the guys are like, oh, well, I'm gonna get an extra few days off if this gets adopted and changed. So, I mean, there's the smiles, but then it's not getting done, so, the question's there, so I'm.
Well, and what I was roundabout getting to was if we can determine when that section is gonna be reviewed, and if you have comments, or if you wanna listen to when we're talking about it, or.
Well, that's what I said, I mean, I saw it was on the agenda, so I wanted to hang out and
Yeah,
at least
because of
listen.
the size of it, though, I guess the
Right.
quick answer is it's gonna take. Several more.
I mean, it takes as long as it takes, but if you don't ask the question, you don't know either, so.
That's
Thank you.
true.
Yep.
All right, we will keep working on it.
And you can always just approve something. If you vote on something, it's done. And we could just, that could be, the new policy, and you just keep working on it. You can always approve things.
Would you have to have them sign each iteration?
Yeah, so it's a pain in the neck.
So finish it.
I think it's, the best way to do it is get it finished and done with.
We all have patience.
And then it doesn't have to be re-looked at for hopefully another 10 years.
I'm so relaxed now.
Maybe
I want to get this done, believe me.
I want the FEMA stuff done, so
Yeah, good luck with that one.
we're gaining.
Something, we're doing something.
I'm gonna put my money on the personnel policy over FEMA.
Yeah, I would too. Alright,
The race is on.
Good night, Josh.
Good night,
Good night.
thanks.
Night.
moving on to item 11, new business. 11A, second class liquor license, Jelly's Auto Care Center, doing business as Jelly Enterprises Incorporated.
I move to approve a second-class liquor license for Jelly's Auto Care Center, also known as Jelly Enterprises Incorporated, related to the property located at 2102 North Main Street.
Yes,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 11B, tobacco license, Jelly's Auto Care Center, DBA, Jelly Enterprises Incorporated. This is a new thing we gotta do now, apparently.
I move to approve a tobacco license for Jelly's Auto Care Center, also known as Jelly Enterprises Incorporated, related to the property located at 2102 North Main Street.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
11C, consider property/equipment auction contract with Auctions International Incorporated. They have not treated us bad yet, so
No, they're a dream to work with.
I would sign on
This is
again.
where we give used vehicles and they take care of them?
They
Oh,
come
yeah.
and they sell it for us, and they send us a check.
This is where we give them the broke down backhoe, and we get
Yep.
$18,000 or something for it.
I mean, it's worked out really, really well.
What are the bets on the trailer? The item is the little trailer that we're talking about.
I'm not making any bets after that backhoe.
I don't know. Anything can happen, so, yeah, I presume the board wants to move forward with that, but in order to do it, we need to have a contract with them.
And I think the town office also wants to look at getting rid of some stage downstairs.
Oh, yeah, the safes, right. We'd love to get rid of those.
Preferably not have to move them ourselves.
Right.
Those things look heavy.
Do you want me to move it?
Please do.
I move to accept the online auction contract with Auctions International, Inc., and authorize the town administrator to execute the contract on behalf of the town.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 11D is second-class liquor license and tobacco license for AGS Vermont Incorporated, also known as the Londonderry Village Market.
Oh. Is that in the plaza?
It's the IGA.
It's the, yeah, okay. I'll go ahead. I move to approve a second-class liquor license for AGS Vermont, Inc., also known as the Londonderry Village Market, related to property located at 5700 Vermont Route 100, Suite A10.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And who wants the last one?
We got,
The tobacco
we
one.
11E.
Got one more. I move to approve a tobacco license for AGS Vermont, Inc., also known as the Londonderry Village Market, related to property located at 5700 Vermont Route 100, Suite A10.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now who wants the last one? Going once.
I
Going
move
twice.
to adjourn the
Jim?
meeting.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, and